Okay, guys. So let's get started without any further ado. Now, this here is our first class for the upcoming course, which I'll be taking up from tomorrow. This will be our demo session today. Now, before we get started with our demo for the course Certified Ethical Hacking version 13, a quick formal introduction on my end. My name is Mohammed Shoaib. I will be your cybersecurity trainer for the entire duration of the course. And again, I've been working in this domain for the last 7 years. I currently work as a senior penetration tester, and I've been training students since the last 5 years or so in the same domain. Okay. And again, no matter which domain you belong to currently, if you want to join cybersecurity, if you want to build a career in cybersecurity, the first step to go through is understand what ethical hacking is. Okay. And there's a course provided by this organization called EC Council, a very well recognized, globally recognized organization, I would say, in the United States. Okay, so if I go to my browser and if I search over here for EC Council, you can do a quick search yourself as well. This is the official website for it. Okay. Again, been there since a very long time, provides all certifications from the very basic to the advanced level, specifically in cybersecurity. Okay. This organization was built for cybersecurity certifications. Okay. And when you want to get started, the first thing you have here is certified ethical hacking. Current running version is version 30. Every few years, the version gets updated, and this is the latest version running right now. Okay, and we'll be following the exact same curriculum which is mentioned in the official course outline over here. Okay, so again, that's a brief intro on what we're going to talk about today. Let's get a bit more in depth. Okay, we'll start our demo session today, but before that, one last confirmation. I hope I'm audible properly. Any issues with the audio or the video? Anyone?
No, you are audible.
Perfectly fine, right? Okay, nice. So yeah, let's get started. So we'll start the demo with the definitions of what hacking is and what ethical hacking is, because a lot of students have a misconception that both can be used interchangeably. That is a very wrong idea. Let's define these terms first. Okay. So when we talk about hacking, this is the procedure of trying to gain access to information systems. Now, what I mean by that phrase, gaining access to information systems, is if I were a hacker, and let's say if I've hacked your computer or your again your mobile phone or a web application server or a database, no matter what device it be, it means I've gained complete control of that device. I can steal information from that system. I can modify or destroy information on that system, or I can exfiltrate, download the data from that device, again, upload it from that system to my system and sell it online to anybody. Okay. So I can gain personal benefit from all your data from your device. So that is what hacking is. Procedure of gaining access to your information systems, no matter how small or how big, without the permission and without the knowledge of the person or the organization owning that system. And this is usually performed by hackers for their own benefit. Again, some hackers are so mischievous, they can even do it just for fun. They can just erase or wipe out the entire data from your system without any personal benefit at all. They're just trying to cause havoc. Okay. So again, you can steal information, destroy information, sell information from others' devices. This is all that is involved in hacking. Okay. Now, this is such a criminal activity. If this is also illegal, why do we have a course called ethical hacking? How is this getting ethical in the first place? So, to define ethical hacking, this is the procedure of trying to find vulnerabilities. This terminology called vulnerability is something that you'll keep coming across a lot in the upcoming sessions. To define it here itself, it's a loophole, it's a flaw in the security of that information system. And these loopholes or security flaws itself are taken advantage of or are exploited by the hackers to get access to the systems. So your job in ethical hacking is to find these vulnerabilities or loopholes in the information systems with the consent and knowledge of the organization. So you work hand in hand with the organization. You take complete permission. You follow all their rules and regulations. You do not cross any boundaries. Everything is done legally with the consent of the organization. Okay. And once you find vulnerabilities which could be leading to cyber threats, you report it back to the company. Okay. And once it's reported back, it's the responsibility of yours and the company together to patch them up. Once the vulnerabilities have been rectified, once all the security updates have been applied, you're closing all the doorways or all the pathways for the hackers to cause any further harm. So thereby you're protecting the organization from these various cyber threats by finding the vulnerabilities and remediating them or patching them up at the earliest. Okay, so that is how hacking and ethical hacking are quite different. Okay, depending on these two terminologies, we have categories of hackers now. There's three broad categories: white, gray, and black hat hackers. Your black hat hackers are the typical cyber criminals who perform hacking for their own benefit without asking for consent. On the other end of the spectrum, we have white hat hackers, the other extreme, someone who abides by the laws and policies of the organization and works for securing the organization's infrastructure. And in between, there's a third mysterious category called gray hat hackers. Now, these are people who have both the qualities of a black hat as well as a white hat hacker. So, like a black hat hacker, they don't ask for permission first. They don't take any consent from the organization. But once they find the vulnerability, without misusing it or without exploiting it, they report it back to the company. Okay, so this is something which is a quality of a white hat hacker, reporting the vulnerabilities back. But there's a minor catch here. They don't do it for free. When you're good at something, you never do it for free. You do it in return for an advantage. Similarly, grey hat hackers as well report these vulnerabilities in return for a bounty. A bounty is like a financial reward they expect in return for reporting those vulnerabilities rather than misusing them. So they're working both offensively and defensively at various stages. Hence, they're called as grey hat hackers, a mix of both black and white hat hacker properties. Okay. Now, no matter what category of a hacker you take, black hat hackers or gray hat hackers or white hat hackers, all of these are professional hackers. They're not just silly script kiddies who are just running scripts from the internet and trying to hack. Okay, they're people who perform hacking or ethical hacking in a very professional manner, which is again a fail-proof method. I'd say. Okay, and this methodology is called as cyber kill chain. Okay, some organizations also refer to this as hacking cycle. It's one and the same. Okay. So to define it, this is a procedure that hackers follow systematically to perform an attack on an organization. And this attack has a very low failure rate, okay, with a very high success rate instead, I would say. Okay. So procedure that hackers follow in order to perform a successful cyber attack is called as cyber kill chain. Okay. And the same knowledge of this procedure also allows cybersecurity professionals, your ethical hackers, to understand how these attacks are being performed, to detect these attacks at the earliest stage possible, and prevent these attacks at every level in the organization. Unless and until you know how to attack devices and what kind of attacks can be performed on a device, you would not know how to protect your organization from those attacks. Okay. So when you're talking about ethical hacking, you would be performing hacking first there, but with consent and permissions taken. You find all the vulnerabilities, you try to attack the vulnerabilities, and you verify if those vulnerabilities are working or not. If they are working, you report it back to the company and you also tell them how to remediate it so that the same thing doesn't get replicated by a real cyber threat or a real cyber criminal. Okay. So that's what your cyber kill chain is, guys. Procedure to perform hacking or ethical hacking. Pretty similar, contains five basic steps in it. First step is called as information gathering. Second step is scanning. Third step is gaining access. Fourth step is maintaining access. And the last step is reporting or clearing traces. If you clearly observe, only the last step has two different terminologies in it: reporting or clearing traces. Okay? Because that is where it makes all the difference. First four steps are exactly similar for any hacker or ethical hacker. What varies is the end result. If you're an ethical hacker or a gray hat hacker, you report the vulnerabilities back to the organization. On the other hand, if you're a cyber criminal, a black hat hacker, you don't report anything back. You remove the evidence of your actions. That is clearing traces. Okay. So now let me go through each of these steps one by one briefly so you have a better idea about the entire course. Because our entire course curriculum is going to revolve around these five steps itself. Okay. Any questions, any doubts up to this point? Anyone? Monica, Shiva, Subhajit, Vaibhav, Krishna.
No.
Right. 1 second, I think. Oh, hi, Huma. I hope I'm audible, Huma. Yashwant, Huma. Hey, guys. Hi, Huma. I think that you've attended the session already earlier as well. It's a repeated session, I suppose. Right. So there's a few more students today. I have to take up the demo for them. Okay. But tomorrow onwards, we're going to start the actual course itself. Don't worry. It's going to be a new class from tomorrow. Okay. Yashwant, I hope you can hear me as well. Is this your first class? I've not seen you in the sessions earlier. Hey, Yashwant. Okay. Any questions or doubts up to this point, Yashwant? Perfect. Let's move on further. Right. Perfect. Moving on further, let's talk about each of these phases one by one so we have a better idea about the entire course. Okay. So the first step is called as information gathering. Now, some organizations also refer to this as a reconnaissance or footprinting, guys. Just different terminologies for the same phase. Do not get confused. Okay. Now, the main objective over here is to gather as much information or data as possible. From the name itself, you could have figured it out. Okay. But the main question here is what kind of information are you trying to gather? Okay. So this step involves you gathering or trying to research as much data as possible about your organization. And this data is obtained passively. What I mean by passively is on the internet, whatever various websites are available for information gathering, you go through you go through all those websites and obtain this data. Okay. And to understand what that data is, here is the list. So you need to obtain information such as IP addresses, network blocks, whose records, DNS records, okay, domains and subdomains, operating system information, employee details, contact numbers, email addresses of the employees, and usernames and passwords, which might have been leaked online in data breaches. Okay. Believe it or not, all of this information is readily available on the internet. All of this information can be gathered for any organization in the world. Only thing is, you need to know what those websites are from where you can obtain that data. Okay. And I know some of these pieces of information might sound a bit gibberish to you. You might know what IP addresses are, but you might not understand what whose records are or what DNS records are. You might know what domains and subdomains are, but you might not understand these OS information. Okay. So again, we'll talk about all that practically in the upcoming sessions. Okay. But the main objective here is to understand that we're getting all of this data for any organization from the internet itself. Okay. So there are multiple websites available. So I would say they are the gold mines on the internet. You can obtain a lot of data from there, from those websites for any organization. Okay. Once all that information has been obtained, that is utilized as the input for the next phase, which is scanning. So scanning, also commonly known as enumeration, is where you use all the data obtained in the earlier phases now to make active connections on them. Okay. So you get some extra data now by making direct, active, and aggressive connections on those devices. Okay. To understand scanning better, we can divide it in three parts. There's something called as network scanning, there's something called as port scanning, and then there's something called as vulnerability scanning. In network scanning, we figure out in the organization what kind of devices are they using, how many servers do they have, what kind of servers do they have FTP servers, do they have DNS servers, do they have DHCP servers, do they have SNMP servers, do they have SMTP servers, do they have again your mail servers, okay, SNMP or same thing, SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol servers. So trying to basically figure out what servers do they have, how many employee client operating system devices do they have, how many firewalls do they have, how many other security measures do they have, do they have intrusion detection systems, do they have intrusion prevention systems. So basically you're trying to figure out in that organization what kind of devices exist and what they're using. Once you know what devices exist, once you know what devices to attack, for attacking that, you need to find on each of those devices what services and what ports are running. Okay. So every system has something called logical ports. Okay. On these ports, you have multiple applications and services running. So you figure out what those ports are. Okay. In the port scanning phase, next phase. Okay. Once you know what services are running, what applications are running on those ports, finally you perform vulnerability scanning, figuring out if any of those services, if any of those applications can be attacked. If they have any loopholes, how do you check for those loopholes and how do you attack that? That is vulnerability scanning. So it's a step-by-step procedure, guys. First, you're finding out what devices are available in the network. Then on those devices, you're figuring out what services are running on them or what applications are they using. And finally, you figure out if those applications or services have a loophole, have a misconfiguration, which you can attack. Okay. During this phase, we'll be working on two very, very important tools. One is called Nmap So if you go to your browser, you can search for Nmap there. It stands for Network Mapper, completely open source, been there since a very long time. I would say at least from 1997. Okay, and still used most widely. Okay, even your latest commercial applications use Nmap in its source code to perform network and port scanning. Okay, completely free. Anyone can download it for free. It's open source and you can learn about it. Okay, so we're gonna go in depth on understanding what Nmap is, how do you download it, how do you use it in the organization. Okay, and after this, we have another tool called Tenable Nessus. This is not free, guys. So if you click on the first link here, this is a paid application, and I'd say quite expensive as well. It's around $7,000. Okay, and that only for 1 year subscription again. Okay, every year you would have to purchase that subscription of $7,500. Okay, and this tool is capable of scanning every single device in your organization and telling you which system contains what misconfiguration on it or what vulnerabilities on it and how you can attack on that. Okay, so these applications generate automated vulnerability reports. These vulnerability reports give the organization an idea on what their risk level is. Okay, how vulnerable their servers are, how again weak the configurations on their servers are, what device can be attacked in what way. Okay, what are the proper security configurations? What can they implement to prevent those issues? All of that is generated in the format of a report. And that report is used for gaining access or performing the upcoming stages of the attacks. Okay. So that is where we have the next phase called gaining access, the phase where the real hacking occurs. So attackers or penetration testers now use the vulnerabilities which are found in the earlier phases to attack a certain application or to attack a certain system or to attack the entire network of the organization. Okay, so this is the phase where you try to attack each and every single type of a device. Okay, so again, I would say this is the core of the subject, covers a vast variety of topics here. I'm going to cover each of these now slowly. Okay, so I'm going to explain what each of these means. Okay, before you dive into this, any questions or doubts up to this point, guys, regarding scanning or types of scanning or anything? Yashwant, Huma,
Yeah, I have one
Manish.
question.
Oh, yeah, 1 second. Oh, yeah, Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah. So since you showed us there are multiple types of scanning we do on devices in network, right?
Mhm.
Since there are cyber threats today a lot more than it was happened earlier, right? So, for example, I have a
Sorry,
device which
your
is
voice,
getting.
your voice got cut, Krishna. Please repeat your question. So sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm saying when we do network scanning or whatever scanning, right? The
Mhm.
device which is going in the scan, they got to know that I'm getting scanned. I should save myself from these cheat things.
There's no way as such because you have these ports open and these ports are actively receiving traffic there. So that traffic which you receive from the internet is very similar to the scan traffic as well. Okay. Unless and until there's a firewall, and if that firewall has a rule to implement these kind of packets to be blocked, these scans will never get blocked. Okay. But in an organization, you have something called as maintenance hours. That is when you have the complete control of the organization to prevent these firewalls from blocking that. So that is the perspective of an ethical hacker. Okay. If you're talking about the perspective of a cyber criminal, he would just try to attack the ports which are not being blocked by the firewall. Okay. If any of those ports have a vulnerability, he tries to attack on those and he tries to get access to the system. But if you're an ethical hacker, you have entire access to the organization where you can perform the scan in the maintenance hours, where these services are taken down from the internet and you have complete access to shut down the firewall, check for vulnerabilities, remove those vulnerabilities, and add up the firewall again. The main agenda here is to see to it that even if there's no firewall in the organization, no
Mhm.
system should contain any vulnerability on their ports. Okay. Firewall is only an extra line of defense. Okay. Even if there's no
Understood.
firewall, your system should not have a vulnerability. That's the main agenda from a penetration tester or an ethical hacker's perspective. Okay. So that's how we
Okay.
perform the scan. We check for vulnerabilities, remove them, and then add the firewall on top of it. Okay. So yeah.
So this tool Nmap is for scanning you just showed, or it do
Yeah, as
multiple things?
mentioned, for network and port scanning. It figures out in the organization what devices are active, and on those devices what services are running. That is the main purpose of Nmap,
Understood. Thanks. Thanks.
right? And once you know what devices are active, what ports are open on them, If you want to check if any of those ports is running some vulnerability on it, if there's a misconfiguration on it, for that you would use Nessus. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Manish, any questions? Your mic is unmuted. Hello, Manish, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Oh, no, not you, Krishna, not you. There's one more student. Hello. Right, moving on. So let's talk about the gaining access modules. Yeah, before that, any questions, guys? Others, Huma, Yashwant, Monica, Shiva.
No.
Okay, right. Vaibhav, Subhajit, Shiva Krishna. Right. Moving on. So let's talk about each of these modules now that we'll be going through in the gaining access phase. So first thing we learn system hacking. Okay. Now here, what I mean by system hacking is now in an organization, guys, you have multiple sorts of workstations or client systems. So when you go to your organization, they'll provide you a laptop. That laptop might be running a Windows operating system on it or a Linux operating system on it. Very rarely, I suppose, you get an Apple system, but yeah, that is also possible. But yeah, when you talk about system hacking, guys, it's about you trying to learn how to crack or bypass any password there. Whether it be Windows or Linux, we'll be learning how do you crack or bypass the passwords. Because the first thing a hacker does, once he has gotten access to your system, once he has exfiltrated all the data, he'll try to block you access to your own device. So he might change the system's password there. Okay. So in such scenarios, you need to understand how do you get or retrieve back access to your device. How do you crack the password which has been changed? How do you bypass it? Which means without even entering the password, how do you still get access back to the data on your hard drive? So that's what system hacking is. Understanding how do you bypass authentication or crack authentication, bypassing passwords. Okay. Another way to attack systems is through malwares. Malwares are nothing but malicious softwares. Okay. So there's viruses, worms, trojans, spyware, rootkit, adware, whatnot. There's tons and tons of malwares available on the internet today. We'll practically learn the importance or the relevance of each of these malwares. Okay. So we learn how to create these malwares, we learn how to attack systems with these malwares, we learn how to defend our system from these malwares. We'll also learn how to detect them if they're already installed on your system. And if they're hidden deep within your system, how do you figure out what those malwares are? How do you scan for those malwares? What are the applications to use? Okay. Again, I'm not talking about any antivirus or simple defender scans. There are other advanced methods for that. Okay, we'll talk about in-depth malware analysis. Okay. Then there's a bonus concept called malware advanced. This is not included as a part of the curriculum, guys. This is something that I'll share as a resource. If you're already in a development environment, this is quite handy for you. You can learn how to write your malware using Python programming. Please note, in this course, there is no requirement for any programming language. Okay. This is just a bonus concept. If you're already in the development field, if you're already working and coding, then this is quite handy for you to learn how to write malwares, to increase your skill set in programming to write malwares. If not, you can completely ignore this. Okay. Then you have the next topic called network penetration testing. In a network, in an organization, you have multiple devices. Understanding how to attack each and every device. Okay, different types of servers, different types of firewalls, different types of security measures. So checking the security on each of those devices is network pen testing. Okay. And then you have also different types of attacks in a network. There's attacks like sniffing attack, man in the middle attack, denial of service attack, distributed denial of service attack, hacking Wi-Fi routers, cracking all the passwords of Wi-Fi routers. All of this falls under network testing. Okay. These attacks allow hackers to capture your data in a network or shut down remote servers by overloading them with huge amounts of traffic and crashing them, or cracking the Wi-Fi router's passwords and accessing others' Wi-Fi routers illegally. All of this falls under network pen testing. Okay. Then comes social engineering, where we learn how do hackers create fake replicas. So if there's any web page on the internet, let's say there's websites like again Facebook, Instagram, or your bank login pages, how do hackers create exact replicas, exact duplicates of those websites? And once they create a duplicate, once they send it to the victim, if the victim is not careful, he might enter credentials there. And those credentials go back to the attacker's system. So these are commonly known as phishing attacks. So we'll practically learn How do hackers perform these phishing attacks? How do you create these fake websites? How do you distinguish between a genuine page and a fake page? Okay, what are the key factors to look for? How do you prevent these attacks? How do you educate or create awareness regarding these attacks in an organization? That's what we learn in social engineering. Then comes hacking web servers. Every organization has a website or a web application hosted on a website. Sorry, hosted on a web server. So we practically learn how do you check for vulnerabilities on the back end of the web server? How do you check if all the services running on the web server are up to date? How do you check for misconfigurations on the web server? All that is learned there. Now, not only on the back end, websites have vulnerabilities on the front end also. Vulnerabilities like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, broken authentication, file upload vulnerability. All of these are vulnerabilities that exist on the front end. Okay. Through these vulnerabilities, hackers can bypass authentication. They can, again, access servers by uploading malicious files to the server, log into others' accounts with their cookies, okay, without requiring a password. So all of these are vulnerabilities on the front end. Okay. So we'll check for these vulnerabilities also. And during this module, we'll be working on a very important tool called burp-suite, asked in a lot of job descriptions, a very popular tool for web security. It's a web-based proxy, basically. It allows you to capture the requests coming from your browser and going to the server, and vice versa. Captures responses as well. And in these requests and responses, you can find a lot of vulnerabilities. You can mess around, you can play around with these requests and find a lot of loopholes in the websites. Okay. So we'll be practically working with this application called burp-suite as well. Okay. Oh, was someone asking a question? Yeah, Krishna, your mic
Yeah,
is
so yeah,
unmuted.
yeah. So one question here, this burp suit, right?
Uh-huh.
So does it sniff all the requests like HTTPS also?
Yeah, it does capture HTTPS requests as well. But again, as mentioned, your server might have an SSL key over there. So if you are working for an organization with your server, that SSL key is provided to you, where you can capture that data and convert that encrypted data to unencrypted data as well. Your requests are definitely unencrypted. They are being initiated from your side itself. Sometimes your responses are encrypted. Okay. So it shouldn't be a problem. It will capture both HTTP and HTTPS requests and responses, and you can encrypt and decrypt them also.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I'll practically show you how to add that SSL key, how to decrypt the data which is encrypted with an SSL key. Okay, how do you capture the data? How do you modify the data? How do you find vulnerabilities with that modified request? We'll learn all that practically. Okay, using burp-suite. Okay. Moving on, after that, we have next evading techniques. So even in an organization, you will have security measures. Everyone has a firewall or so, but having a firewall is not the only thing. Having it configured right is the most important thing. So there are misconfigurations which might lead to various attacks. If your firewall exists without a proper configuration, it's pretty easy to bypass them. I'm going to show you what those configurations are. How do you bypass these firewalls using these different tools? Okay. Then there's vulnerability assessment, a very important module. And this will be working on a tool called Metasploit framework. This is a practical tool we'll be working on. A very popular tool asked in a lot of job descriptions as well. This is for assessing vulnerabilities. Okay. So basically, whatever vulnerabilities are shown to you in the report from Nessus, you just don't blindly trust them. You have to verify each and every vulnerability. So basically, you try to perform the attack on that vulnerability and try to assess if it is truly there or if it was just a false positive. Okay. So that assessment, that attacking on that vulnerability is done through the Metasploit framework. It has all the tools necessary to attack on those vulnerabilities. Okay. So that's what we learn. Verifying and checking if a vulnerability is truly available or if it's a false positive. And if it truly exists, what kind of risk does it pose to the organization? What can you do with that vulnerability? How can you exploit it? What kind of attacks can be performed? We talk about all that there. Okay. And finally, we have hacking mobile phones, where we talk about how to attack an Android phone. Again, there is no iPhone hacking in this case. CH is not including iPhone hacking, but still, I'm going to include tools to show you how you can bypass iPhone security as well. Okay, but not inclusive in EC Council's curriculum, guys. Okay, I'm going to show it as a bonus topic. Okay, so the main agenda over here, as mentioned, is to understand attacking each and every endpoint. We talk about system security, we talk about network security, we talk about wireless security, we talk about web server security, web application security, firewall security, mobile phone security. From as small as a mobile phone to as big as a database or web application servers or your firewalls or whatever it be. We learn how to check the security of each and every single endpoint. Okay. Once you have learned that, once you have learned how to attack these devices and defend these devices, then we have the next module called maintaining access. Okay. So once an attacker gains access to your system, the first thing it does is he converts that connection into a persistent connection. What I mean by persistent connection is even if you restart your device, I should still be connected to you. That's a sticky persistent connection. Okay, it's one of the post exploitation tasks. Okay, once I've successfully exploited a vulnerability, attacked your system, I need to maintain or retain that connection, retain the ownership of that target system. That is called as maintaining access. No matter what you do, I should still be connected to your system. Okay, that's maintaining access. And if that is obtained, it's game over for the target, right? So after maintaining access is done, finally we have reporting or clearing traces. Okay. So once this maintaining access step has been obtained, we report to the organization. This is how the vulnerability has started. This is how hackers can exploit it. This is the risk that your organization poses from this vulnerability. This is how they can exploit it and attack other systems in your network. Every single detail, minor detail, is included in the report. Ethical hackers generate reports for the organization, elaborating the vulnerabilities and the threats that those vulnerabilities are posing for the organization. Along with that, you also provide the solutions to eradicate those vulnerabilities. That's the job of an ethical hacker. On the other hand, on the other hand, if you're a black hat hacker, you don't report anything. What you do otherwise is clearing traces. Black hat hackers or cyber criminals remove all the footprints of your actions. Okay. So they delete the logs, they delete the evidence of their actions, all the footprints are gone. So they hide their identity so that they are trying to be anonymous. Okay. So the main agenda of a cyber criminal is he performs the attack and stays untraceable. He shouldn't get traced back or caught again. Okay. So part one is attacking the system. Part two is staying untraceable after the attack is successful. That's what we learn in clearing traces. Okay. So the entire course is going to run in two simple tracks. We first learn the attacks as a cyber criminal. Then we learn how to defend against those attacks as a penetration tester in an organization. How do you prevent those attacks? Okay. And please do not worry, even if you're not from an IT domain, we'll be learning everything from scratch. So we talk about networking fundamentals first. We talk about Linux commands. We talk about how to set up a practical lab environment on your own device to practice this, all these concepts that I teach you. So you don't need a cloud environment or anything. You don't need to have any access to the internet to perform all of these practicals. Okay. For some of them, you need to download softwares there. You might need internet. But for any of the practicals, you can perform it on the simulation on your system itself. I'm going to show you how to set up the lab, and I'm going to show you how to perform those practicals in your own local lab itself. Okay. So yeah, that is the main agenda, guys. We'll be learning what this entire 5 steps cyber kill chain on the hacking cycle in the CEH course. Okay. And yeah, as mentioned, we'll be covering all the prerequisites first, and then we dive into the advanced concepts. The course is for a duration of 35 to 40 days, where we have classes from Monday to Friday, every day for 1 hour each. Okay. Each of these sessions will be recorded. Each of these documentations will be provided to you. You just need to create a rough notes. Other than that, entire content is provided to you. Okay. So as you progress through classes, create a rough note. That's it. Other than that, all these
Okay.
materials, all these documents will be shared with you directly. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, someone was asking a question, guys. Oh yeah, Huma. Any questions? Okay. Yashwant, any questions? Huma, any questions? Manish, any questions? Krishna, Maunika, Shiva, Subhajit, Vaibhav.
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
couple of questions. Yeah.
no, 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 no. You cannot create the lab on the iPad, Huma. You would have a system requirement, I would say. At least a Windows device. Okay. And you can create it on old MacBook. Again, the minimum requirement for the lab would be at least 8 gigs of RAM, Huma. So please check if your system has that 8 gigabytes of RAM. And storage wise, you would need maybe 100 to 150 gigabytes of free storage. Okay, that is, I would say the adequate requirement for this course. 8 gigabytes of RAM and around 100 to 150 gigabytes of free storage for all the lab setup. Okay. So again, irrespective of which device you have, MacBook or Windows should work, but preferably Windows. Storage is 150 gigs, yeah, 100 to 150 gigs of storage.
I'm sorry, come again. What is the system requirement? I lost the
Right,
concept.
guys. Again, I can just drop a text over here. So 8 gigabytes of RAM, the memory, and 100 to 150 gigabytes of storage, hard drive storage.
And
Okay.
any specific operating system?
Windows is preferable. Even if it's Mac, it's fine. Apple is also fine, but it's easier on a Windows operating system, I would say.
Windows.
Okay.
Okay.
Because in this window, again, in your operating system, we would be installing this tool called VMware. It's a virtualization software. In this VMware application, we'll be installing other operating systems. We'll be working on something called Kali Linux. Okay, it's a Linux-based OS. The reason why we'll be using this is because it comes pre-installed with all the cybersecurity related tools. Completely open source. Anyone can download this for free. The official website for this is kali.org. Okay. One of the best operating systems, I would say, available there on the internet for cybersecurity. Completely open source and can perform various operations such as penetration testing, security research, computer forensics, reverse engineering, vulnerability management. All of these operations can be performed from this one single OS. Comes with more than 600 plus tools. All the tools which I've mentioned, Metasploit, Nmap, Wireshark, Burpsuit. As you can see, all these tools are pre-installed in this one single operating system. So I'm going to practically show you how to install this operating system in the software called VMware. As you can see, this is my Kali OS here. Okay. So don't worry, I'm going to show you how to install a practical lab, guys. Okay. And once the lab is ready,
I have question.
but 1 second, guys, questions are being overlapped. Because I'm running this on multiple different links for multiple different institutes at the same time. Yeah, Huma, you were saying something? Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Again, if you're starting this with that sufficient amount of storage, it should not have a problem till the end of the course, Huma. So as mentioned, 8 gigs of RAM and that 100 gigabytes of storage. That's the main requirement. If you have that for the entire duration of the course, you will never face any issues. If you do so, I'll be there to resolve them. We can find alternatives. But that is the minimum requirement, I would say. So if you have that, should not be a problem. Right, right. Sure, sure. You can check that. I've mentioned the specifications in the chat box, Homa. Yeah. Krishna, you were saying something?
Yeah. So see, recently I just read basic cybersecurity from internet. Okay, Edureka,
Mhm.
and I sit in an interview, right? So he
Okay.
asked me basic theory question. Till that point, it was good, but
Okay.
he asked me some very good question like, what are the last 10 vulnerabilities or attacks in the world happened right in last 5 years?
Okay.
And he wanted those use cases, and I think
Hmm.
he and that gave me an insight that those use cases are also important if we cover them in the course,
Definitely. Yeah, we will
right?
be. Again, the same vulnerabilities which we have seen in the recent years, I'll be covering those. I'll show you how to practically attack on
Yeah.
those vulnerabilities. How do you
Mhm.
scan for those vulnerabilities? So again,
Because
it will
he
the
asked
most
me about
biggest
log4j, and I
exactly.
was not knowing that.
I was about to say the same thing. The most
Yeah.
recent, largest vulnerability that occurred was the Log4j thing. The second one below that comes with the CrowdStrike Falcon. Okay. So your CrowdStrike Falcon had an issue in its source code, which was leading to a blue screen of death. Okay. Or could also lead to privilege escalation attacks. Okay. The first one, the much more dangerous one above that was your Apache Log4j vulnerability. Again, this was a vulnerability with your Apache Linux servers. Okay. So we'll practically learn if those vulnerabilities exist, how do you exploit that? Okay. And again, if that vulnerability is existing, how do you remediate that? So how do you scan for those vulnerabilities with Nessus? Okay. Everything is shown
Okay.
in the course. Okay. So we'll be working on the same use cases that happen in real time. Okay. Nothing to worry. This is a very hands-on course, guys. The things I'll explain are at least 20% theoretical and remaining 80% is practical stuff. Okay. So not much of theory nonsense. We will have theory, might bore you out a bit, but the practical part is more. Okay. So you'll have a lot of fun learning all these practical things. I would say it's interesting stuff. Okay.
Sir,
And
actually,
yeah, yeah. Monica, who was asking the question?
yes, yes, it's me only, Monica.
Okay, yeah,
Actually, I got a doubt here. I mean, basic doubt. What does that means? I don't have any idea about this, but I'm interested in cybersecurity.
Mhm.
Is it possible to learn much more things? Because I want to learn from basic.
Again, as mentioned, Monica, will be learning this from scratch. I've trained
Okay.
students the same course who have been just passed out of intermediate, okay, the high school, okay. So even if
Okay,
you're in
then
just
fine.
your first year of engineering as well, you can learn this course. It should not be a
Sure,
problem.
sure. Thank you.
Learning things from scratch. Okay. Yeah, Kuma, you were saying something? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a Windows system preferably, Homa? Do you have a Windows laptop as well? Hmm. Okay. And what is your Mac processor? Which processor is it? M1, M2 chip? Sure. Well, let me know. Because there's some MacBooks which are not compatible for VMware virtualization. I think the M2 chip is not compatible for virtualization. If it's not M2, it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, M Monterey. Oh, no worries. I'll do one thing. We'll just look into it. I'll remotely connect to your system and I'll check it out later on. Maybe that should help. Okay. Oh, it's an Intel thing. Yeah, that should work fine then. That shouldn't be a problem. Sure, that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. Okay. Yashwant, any questions? Manish, any questions? Krishna, any questions? Shiva, Subhajit, Vaibhav. Okay. So yeah, that concludes the demo for today, guys. Tomorrow we're gonna go into the next topic, which is networking fundamentals. As mentioned, these have again, not every institute includes these prerequisites, guys. It's important to know these fundamentals before you dive into cybersecurity. Without these, you'll be a bit again, things are gonna seem a bit hazy and confusing. Okay. So the first concept we're gonna learn tomorrow is networking fundamentals. I've included all these prerequisites myself so that you have a better idea about the fundamentals first. Okay. So we talk about what IP addresses are, we talk about what networks are, what are IPv4 addresses and their properties, what is the sequencing of IPv4 addresses, okay, what's the first IP, what's the last IP, what's the sequence of IPs, what's the range of IPs, okay, what are public IPs, what are private IPs. We talk about all this, okay. So it's basically like you're doing the entire CCNA course in one, two, or two, three classes. Okay, I'm going to include all the necessary concepts required for networking. After this is done, we go into Linux commands. What is a Linux operating system? How is its architecture different from Windows? What are some important basic commands in Linux? Okay, so I've included that also if you notice. That's the second prerequisite. Okay. What are Linux commands? How is it different from other operating systems, Windows or Mac? What's the architecture of Linux? Okay. What are the important folders in Linux? What are the important commands in Linux? Practically learning each and every command. Okay. So we'll cover all these prerequisites first. Okay. So Maunika, you don't have to worry. As mentioned, everything is covered from scratch. Once we learn these
Okay.
basic concepts, then we dive into the entire hacking cycle. Okay. So
Okay.
you will be well
And
prepared. Yeah.
okay, and one more thing I want to say here. Actually, I'm interested in cybersecurity. That's the
Mhm.
reason. Actually, I have 5 years of experience in non-IT.
Okay.
So, what I'm thinking is, at least for 2 years experience, Canada, how much stuff I can learn. I mean, how much stuff they know. At least if I learn that much, it may be useful for me for my next steps. Because
This
again, if I
course is
yeah,
sufficient for up to, again, if you want to apply a fake or something, this course is sufficient for up to 3 years of experience in cybersecurity.
okay,
After 3 years, you
because
will definitely learn a specialization. You would either specialize
yeah,
in web
yeah,
security or mobile
because
security or
yeah,
whatever.
because why I'm asking is already it's a 5 years of experience in non-IT. Actually, again, if I
Mhm.
want to start from starting onwards,
Mhm.
it's a financially and also my career also 5 years of delay. No, so there's a reason
Right.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, again, to be very straight and upfront, Monica, with this course, you can't apply for more than 5 years. As a cybersecurity professional,
No,
after the
I'm
first 2, 3 years, you'll jump to higher job roles. You'll be an
if
expert and penetration tester with one of the domains. So
yeah,
I
what I'm
currently work as a
yeah
web pen tester, web security pen tester. So
Okay.
after this course is done, you can do those other courses also. I do provide some advanced training on some other courses. I train,
Because I want at least I want 2 years. I can show at least 2 years. Then it seems better for me. No.
yeah, this course is sufficient for that. Up to
Oh,
3 years, this is good enough, I would say.
okay. What I'm thinking is at least 2 years because in interviews and wherever maybe I can say yeah I have 3 years of knowledge experience. After that I can move to cybersecurity. I have 2 years. Then I
Yeah,
take some break and I upskill myself. Then I'm trying for my best for next roles. I can say like these. No.
definitely. This should work out for that. This shouldn't be a problem. And yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, Monica. This course is more than sufficient for those
uh,
situations.
shall I get, I mean, live projects? I don't know how it is. Maybe if I
Again,
practice
when
much,
we
it
talk
seems better.
about cybersecurity, Monica, you wouldn't have projects because this is where you're not building anything. You're just testing the
Okay.
security for it. So I'm going to show you
Okay.
how to test the security for an organization, again, with the
Okay.
simulation itself. Okay. But for every single endpoint. Okay. So
Okay.
as a side project, if you want to do, you can try to create your own lab. You can tell them that I've created a virtual lab, again, where I've performed SOC analysis or penetration testing. That could be just a side project. But in
Okay.
cybersecurity, you don't have projects. It's all about experience. Okay. So you
Okay.
that you have performed pen testing for a certain organization. Okay. That could be the only thing
Okay.
you mentioned. Okay. Moving on to your question, Shiva. Yeah, again, in your cybersecurity domain currently is an evergreen domain, I would say. Every single day you have a new organization, you have a new website where you have to check the security for it. Okay. It's an integral part of every organization. So when you talk about SOC or NOC job roles, everything is important equally, I would say, Shiva. Okay. But you have to be updated on the tools every single day. There's again, not every single day, but every few years, there's a better SOC tool. Splunk was there in the market. Then you have IBM QRadar. Then there's something came up as Wazoo, which was completely open source. Then you have ELK Stack. Okay, learning one of them is sufficient, but you have to be skilled or you have to be a bit knowledgeable in all of these tools. Okay, be an expert in one of them, be knowledgeable in all of them. I would say. Okay, so along the long run, SOC jobs are also perfectly fine. It's I would say a less stressful job role SOC comparatively. I wouldn't say knock is stressful, but it's more about you brainstorming there. You have to keep on searching for vulnerabilities. SOC is where you're getting tickets there and you're trying to triage those tickets. You're verifying if it is a true, again, a true attack or not. Okay, so that's what SOC involves. Knock is where you're constantly testing for security loopholes in your devices and your applications. Okay, so that's what knock is and that's what SOC is, right? So yeah, equally, again, sufficient with a self-sustaining career, I would say. Is that clear, Shiva? Hello, Shiva, are you there? Shiva Krishna,
Hey, I should. I have a couple of questions.
right?
Uh,
Yeah, Krishna,
since these days we have ChatGPT, we are actively using in our roles, right,
right.
to lessen our work. Is there
Uh-huh.
any scope for some basic AI getting involved in this
The,
scanning?
again, definitely. So it is going to make your job a lot easier, I would say, Krishna. So
Mm.
again, the CEH version 13 is basically including AI. So if you go to the official website as well, if I go to my browser and if you go to CH certification, you can see they have included something called AI on the top. If you notice on the small, like an asterisk, they've mentioned AI there. So basically, what happens with again the usage of AI over here in CEH this course is they have included a tool called Shell GPT. Okay. So again, in CEH or in cybersecurity, it's a compilation of different tools. Sometimes it
Mm.
gets quite overwhelming to remember all the tools and all their syntaxes. Now, here is where AI comes into the play, where you can ask that Shell GPT application in your Linux terminal itself. You can give the script there, you can give the prompt there. Give me the entire command to run this tool. Okay. So, just in case if you forget it, you have the AI to assist you there. So, that is where the AI has come up to the extent in CEH until now. In the future, maybe it can automate the tasks for you as well. But until now, there's no integration as such. Okay. So it's better to learn how to integrate things yourself as well so that you're again up in the market. No matter which domain you go to, AI is slowly taking over. Okay. Same thing will happen with VH or cybersecurity as well. But you have to stay ahead of the curve and learn how to use it to your advantage. Okay. So again, we'll be talking about that also. How can you use AI to get these prompts to give you, okay, the commands, or again, if you've forgotten something, what are the correct prompts to run to get you that exact syntax necessary in your situation? Okay. So that's what the AI inclusion is in CEH in this version 13. Okay. Is that clear?
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
And since see one question that Monica raised, right? Even I have similar question. Like uh, post this course, right? We have very good hands-on, right? Now,
mhm.
do we get any certificate for this for this course?
You get a course completion certificate, but if you
Exactly.
want
Exactly.
you will get a course completion certificate from DurgaSoft, the institute itself, or whichever
So
institute you're taking the
what
course
are the
from.
low hanging screen certificate that we can do post this course? You know, that will make our profile visible in the job where we apply
Right.
for this role,
So
right?
one thing is the course itself, the certification CEH. So you can apply for the CEH certification, but quite
Mhm.
costly again. It's around $500 or so to write the exam. You will be skilled enough to pass the exam without fail. That I can guarantee. But it's quite an expensive certificate. That is the issue. So if your company sponsor, if you're already working in an organization, if the organization is sponsoring it for you, perfect option. I would recommend you do it right away. Okay.
No, no,
But
no,
if
no.
your company is not sponsoring it, I would recommend again just including some things attractive in your resume, getting a job, and then from that job asking for the certification. Okay. If you are rich enough, you can do it on your own as well. Okay. But as mentioned, this is the main certification you can apply for. If you want another certification, there's this one called CompTIA Security Plus. Okay. Slightly
Okay.
cheaper. Okay. But yeah, again, but not that popular in India. In US, it's very, very popular. They prefer that over CEH. Okay. In India, they prefer CEH more. Okay. CompTIA is a very theoretical certification. CEH is a much more practical version of it. Okay. So that's why in India, it is much more preferred. In US and all, it's more theory wise. The things you learn that are very theoretical. So again, I've trained some US students as well, and when I show them the practicals, they go crazy. They're like, "This is too tough to understand." I've never seen that with Indian students. Okay. So CompTIA is one more certification you can apply for. Okay, that is one more low hanging fruit, I would
And
say.
and these certificates must be recurring like EWS, right? Or they are like lifetime.
No, 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 no. They are 3 years expiry date.
Okay, okay. Even the
Okay.
CEH, right?
Same thing, even CH as well. Uh, I think CH is going to change their certification thing. I think they might change it to 1 year also. I heard that recently. But yeah, there will be a time limit. It's not lifetime for sure.
Okay, okay. And this content looks so much actually. You
Oh,
said right.
one second, guys. Questions are overlapping. 1 second, Krishna. Yeah, Huma, go ahead. You were saying. Yeah, you can clear CompTIA Plus as well, Huma. You will be getting the content for it. Yes, yes, definitely. Right. Yeah, Krishna, you were saying something.
Uh, I'm sorry. I'm
You were saying
overwhelmed.
content is something. I heard content
Yeah,
is.
exactly, exactly. I was going through the record, right? This looked fascinating. Like too much thing, right? We are going to try.
Mhm.
So like post 5 days of session, we need to spend uh much more time to practice things because content is used, right? And days are
Yeah.
35 on.
No, again, definitely content will be a bit overwhelming, Krishna. I'll teach you things and I would recommend you practicing the same thing on the same day itself if possible. If not, giving at least 5 to 6 hours over the weekend. Okay. And secondly, even after the course is done, you will still have contact with me. Okay. So again, I have not changed my number for the last 5 years. So the students keep contacting me for their help in cybersecurity, whether it be with their certifications or their job assistance or whatever it be. So even
Nice, nice.
after 35 days, of course, you still have my number. Again, once you register, you'll be getting my WhatsApp number directly. So if you have
Okay.
any questions, just drop a text. I'll be there during the course or after the course as well. Shouldn't be a problem. Okay.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Huma, you were saying? Yes, yes, yes. You will be getting assignments. So after certain classes, I'll. Yeah, Huma. Nothing as such, Huma. It would be individual task itself. It's the same task given to everyone. So, but if you want, you can buddy up. You will have your WhatsApp groups. So if you want to do it together with someone else, you can. That's your choice. But yeah, mostly it will be individual tasks itself. I will be giving you assignments. I'll be giving you work to complete just to understand if you're doing the practicals properly or not. Okay, so there will be assignments.
So I'd request one thing. Sorry if I'm
Sure,
cutting.
sure. We'll do that, Huma. Again, once we have the WhatsApp group, you can, again, you'll have contact of all the other students. So you can buddy up with anyone you want. Okay. Right. Yeah. Krishna, you saying something.
Yeah, I was saying same thing, sir. If you can create some group, right, among us, so whenever we have queries, right, most of them you will be answering. But if some we have some, we can, during assignments or maybe some new stuff, we can connect.
We will have a WhatsApp group. So again, these are all demos, guys. After the demos, we'll have a confirmed list of all the registered students. And once I have that list of registered students, then I create the WhatsApp group so that you can communicate with each other. And again, I can post anything that is required there. The recordings or the material or everything will be posted on email and in that WhatsApp group. Okay. So we will have a WhatsApp group, definitely, with all the registered students. Okay. So yeah, please do register at the earliest, guys. I think these demos are going to last for 2-3 days more. And after that, we'll have only the registered, changed, paid link classes. So if you've not registered already, not already, I would say, because this is your first class. But yeah, do register at the earliest and we'll start the classes from tomorrow. Again, tomorrow is the actual class of the course itself, but it will still be a demo for you guys. Okay. So
Okay.
tomorrow and after, we're going to have demos itself on the topic networking fundamentals. Okay, just to give you a glimpse of what the classes are going to look like. Okay, a much more in-depth glimpse, I would say. Okay, so yeah, that's that. Nothing further for the class today, guys. We can exit here, and we'll be connecting back tomorrow on the same link. Okay, for the next
Sure.
class.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for joining the session today, guys. We'll be
Thank you,
connecting
sir.
back tomorrow. Take care.
Bye.
Have a good night. Have a good day. Bye bye. Thank you.